Hello folks, it's Chris in Arena Studio with another lesson for you. Today we're going to look at five important points that are going to improve your guitar playing in a very short space of time. And if this is something that you want to learn, then this is the video for you. Thanks for sticking around, folks. Please give the channel a like and a subscribe. It makes my day. So straight away, let's get on to this lesson. The first point that I see with most guitar players where we struggle to make real good progress is purely down to commitment. It really is the big thing. You know, don't buy a guitar and take lessons if you're only going to play it once or twice a week. You need to be looking at a consistent, regular practice, which we'll talk about in a couple of steps. But the most important thing is the commitment to want to learn, to want to make progress with the guitar. It's a very difficult thing to try and assign so many minutes per day to focus on something that we find very difficult to do. But believe me, trust me on this, that with practice and knowing what to practice, it's going to get easier, and the whole progress and the journey that you're on to get better on the guitar is going to become more pleasurable. It's such a steep learning curve at first that it can be very frustrating, and this is where the commitment comes in. That commitment to practice, to saying to yourself, when I come home from school, when I come home from work, I'm going to pick the guitar up and I'm going to do 15 minutes of whatever it is you're going to work on. You're far better doing that every single day than practicing, say, on a Monday, missing a few days and practicing on a Thursday, because the muscle memory isn't getting absorbed. So commitment to time is paramount. You must put that practice in regularly, and if you can do it every day, brilliant. So that's my first tip. Second tip is always practice to a metronome if you can. And the reason why is I get so many bands that come into the studio, some of the drummers can't even play to a metronome. So it frustrates the hell out of me, that does really, when they're supposed to be the guy that's holding everything together and they can't play to a nice click track. So the reason why I think playing to a metronome is really important is because if we look at something like, say, we're going to pick a little pattern there, we're going to go, okay? Now if we're playing this to a metronome, we're going click, 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 click. What we're creating is the note of every part of that phrase that we're working on is going to be exactly the same length each time we play it. That's what the metronome does. It gives us that opportunity to play everything identically, because without a metronome, that phrase that normally would go like this, probably if I overemphasize all the very minuscule errors, if I overemphasize them, we get something along these lines. And then the next time you play it without the metronome, it goes. Now our brain doesn't know which one is correct. So what we're looking to try to do is to make sure that everything is as on the money as we can get it, because then the brain then absorbs this and it goes, I've been here before, I know what all this is about. So again, we get every type of variance is a completely different exercise, which our brain doesn't know, like I say, whether it's right or wrong. So we are trying to make sure that this stays constant all the way through. And playing to a metronome guarantees that that will happen. And it takes all those little tiny, idiotic kind of little movements that we put in, and it's the same scale that I've played several times there, but each one was different because the timing and the length of the notes varies. So the metronome keeps those in line for you. So that's tip number 2. Tip number 3, speed. Oh man, speed. Oh dear me. Only ever practice at the speed that you can play it perfectly. Okay, I'm going to say that again because I've said this in so many lessons, in so many videos, and it still crops up to this day. Only ever practice at the speed that you can play it perfectly. Now this varies from day to day. For an example, if I was to work on this pattern again, you might find that working to a metronome, you can play that at 80 beats a minute. The next day, that might seem really difficult. So you've got to drop it down, because if you practice at 80 beats every day at first, you might find that day 2 and day 3, you're making mistakes. Be very aware that this is what's going to happen. So if you can make sure that you're conscious of these errors coming into your playing, then you need to just dip it down maybe 5 to 10 beats per minute and practice there so that you are playing constantly, perfectly. And then that eliminates all the mistakes. It's not going to get good. It doesn't become good unless you make it good. So again, only ever practice at the pace that you can play it perfectly. Nearly said that wrong then, didn't I? But hopefully the message has got through. That's a really very important one, that. So don't be frightened of dipping down your tempos on your metronomes, or if you're feeling good and you can play it quicker as long as you keep it perfect and there are no mistakes, you're doing it right, okay? And you'll find that your progress will really rocket with all these tips as well. Fingers. Yes, we use them on the guitar all the time. One of the big problems I see with a lot of the students that come into the studio for the one-to-one lessons here in Arena Studio is that finger control is pretty limited. We see that the faster, again, this speed thing crops up a lot with guitars, but the faster we play, the further away from the fretboard, from the strings, the fingers kind of fly. So for me, I always look at this efficiency thing, whereas if I'm working on a scale, I'm trying to keep my fingers no more than, so they go no more than a centimetre away from the fretboard. And that is difficult, again, because you want to go quicker, which means we get these fingers start to lift. We lose control. Speed causes us to lose control in accuracy. So again, if we limit the amount of speed and make sure that what we're doing is under control, even if you have to play like this, you've got control over those fingers. That then becomes second nature. Literally like riding a bike. You don't suddenly get on a bike, cock your leg over and pedal flat out down the street, do you? No, it takes time. You fall off, you wobble a little bit, and then you build that speed up. The speed is the byproduct of the experience. So again, make sure that you are in control of those fingers all the time. If your fingers are flying, you're losing that quality in your playing. Playment? It's been a long day. You're losing the quality in that playing ability. So make sure that the accuracy again is there with the fingers. It will probably slow you down by a few beats as well if you're working to the metronome, to make sure that those fingers don't fly. But that's good. That's giving you that perfect quality practice again, okay? And the other thing I'm going to talk about, the final one, the fifth one on my list, is efficiency of movement. And again, that goes back to what I've just said about the fingers and the finger height. But the other thing is pick movement as well. When we look at, here's an example. Imagine that all these 6 strings are one big string, okay? One great big string, that's it. And if I'm going to strum a chord, I'm going to pick a G chord and I'm just going to strum that. Okay? So imagine that those 6 strings are one string. Watch what happens to my strumming arm when I go quick. See the excess movement? It became less and it was more controlled, because we only need to use the amount of movement that is necessary to produce the same thing. The same thing applies with a single string. If we see this kind of thing going on, there's a lot of movement really to make that string sound. It's just a small pick movement. So again, if you add that excess pick movement where it creates an inefficient way of picking, because we've got to go past the string and stop, put the brakes on and stop and come back to pick the note again, you'll find that with flying fingers, with sloppy metronomes, without metronomes, and with a lot of excess pick movement, there's 3 variants then, which is picking height, picking movement ineffective, and also varying those notes and the note length and the duration, because we're not playing to a click. Those are just 3 things that are going to cause issues with your playing straight away. So remember all these, commitment to practice is paramount. Make sure that what you focus on, you do exactly the same every single day till you've got it mastered. Pick a goal when you've got that commitment. If it's to learn one chord, keep practicing the one chord till you've got it. If it's to learn a scale, keep practicing the one scale till you've got it. So don't overcomplicate things. Don't try and learn 3, 4, 5 things at the same time. Get the one skill absorbed and controlled and then move on to the next and the next. If it takes you 12 months, if it takes you a month to learn one, then that's great, because in a year, that's 12 skills that you've acquired and you're very good at. Okay, so that's that one. Metronome again, make sure you use a metronome and you keep it nice and constant and you don't try and go too fast and you keep everything controlled and accurate, because speed comes from perfect practice. So only ever practice at the speed that you can play it perfectly. I wish I had £1 for every time I said that. And then again, finally, you know, your fingers, keep those about 1 centimetre from the strings, making sure that they're not flying all over the place. It's all about quality. All these point to one thing, which is quality, really. And then efficiency of movement. You know, keep your pick movement under control. If you don't need to move it, don't move it. You know, just make sure, you know, I like to sort of economy pick me. So if you look there, how my pick never really leaves the string when I do that. So I can't get any more accurate and efficient than picking up and down like that, can I? Whereas if we've got that going on, there's a lot of movement that's not necessary. So again, you get variances in sweeps of notes, same as we do when we strum. When we strum, we're not going to the same exact place all the time when we go down. So why is the pick doing that? What we do with a strum, we might go to there and then back up and then to there and back up. So we've got extra variances that we don't need. Eliminate those and your guitar playing will skyrocket. So that's about it from me this week. It's always a pleasure and it's great to get some nice comments off everybody, and I love doing the videos for you, and hopefully we're all making nice progress on this guitar journey together. So keep subscribing and liking and commenting, makes my day. So for me, Chris, stay safe, stay well, and keep on rocking in the free world.